Where do you think Alzheimer's come from? A lot of people in our society today, the moment they receive the news of Alzheimer's, it can already be too late. And of course, there's all these different community care centers and stuff to, create community, the community aspect of the social fabric, to really enable them to function as well as they could. But do you know that Alzheimer's can be prevented? And you first need to understand the root causes of how Alzheimer is being carried out in the first place. Now, I want to teach you from the Word of God, because you guys know that I teach health and treat patients about health because coming from the Word of God. And the Word of God stands true today. It's powerful yesterday, today, and forever. And the idea is that the Word of God talks about the creation standpoint. So if you're sitting there going like, oh wait, I'm not a Christian, understand that you and I are human beings. Okay, the Word of God teaches us how to be humans. And it's not another emotional talk, it's not about another pep talk. It's about what God has actually said for us as humans to be humans. How do we need to function in our relationships? And you guys have heard me talk about this so many times. When relationships are central to health, there are three categories of relationships. Obviously, one is with our Creator, with God. There are a host of diseases that can stem from there if you don't have a relationship with God, and relationship with yourself and relationship with others. Okay, so when it comes to Alzheimer's, relationship with yourself that is broken is in question. Okay, now we always talk about how when it comes to relationship with self that's broken, a lot of times patients have these low self-esteem, poor self-image, self-rejection, self-disapproval, self-hatred, guilt, shame, condemnation. And in Alzheimer's, this mindset actually comes from this major fear of man, where the person has spent his entire life, or a huge portion of his or her life, performing for others. That is a broken relationship with themselves. That means they feel so lack of validation, they feel so lack of approval that they have to derive it from others. And that is a broken relationship with others, because I believe, and the Bible talks about this, that God has called us to build each other up, that our words have life, not death, and our words are meant to build someone else up. And if all we're doing with other people is gaining approval by doing something for them in order for them to give us some kind of compliment or praise, then we are actually in this area where we are having a dysfunctional relationship with that person, and that constitutes a broken relationship with yourself. Okay, and that idea is that when someone has this fear of man for a long time, then they start to have this self-accusation. Okay, because there's no way that they can form a personal and concrete identity, okay, because he doesn't know who he really is. And I talk about this in my other videos that I'll link to at the end. But I talked about the idea of this spiritual parallel, that your body doesn't just react to something within the body. It actually reacts to something in the mind, because as a man thinketh, so he is, which is stated in Proverbs 23, verse 7. So your mind actually is part of your soul, which actually has a crazy, intricate link with your body. But what actually comes before the soul really is the spirit, which is things that I talked about love and fear-based relationships. So what I just mentioned was really the fear that comes from the fear of rejection, the fear of condemnation, the fear of lacking approval, lacking validation. That fear of man is really that relationship with ourselves that are broken. Okay, then that spiritual parallel really is that spiritual condition, or that fear condition with the fear of man. Can you see there's actually a parallel to what Alzheimer's really is? Because the moment you have a fear of man with that broken relationship with yourself, you have truly forgotten who you are. And this is where a lot of people who have Alzheimer's, if you recall clearly, and you just look it up on Google or remember your interaction with someone with Alzheimer's, they too have forgotten who they are in their behavior. That means the loss of memory, being demented, right? All these things, right? So can you see the parallel? The relationship breakdown where they have forgotten themselves, that have ruined their identity, has now become a true behavioral parallel in the natural. Okay, so this is where I want to be very judicious in saying that this content that I'm putting out there is by no means a diagnosis, is by no means something that you can take home and go, I'm good. It is only for educational content. That means I'm trying to make people more aware of the ultimate root causes based on how they were designed, and that's what I teach. And that's why I always recommend you to engage personally with a counselor, with a pastor, someone you can actually trust that deals with this area, that deals with building your personal identity. For me, I am a big fan, right, or big fan, not really just a fan, but this is my life, that God who designed me is the giver of my identity, that my words have life and my words can bring death, but I choose to speak the word of God that gives me life to others and to myself. And that's why when I teach patients in my clinic about getting over Alzheimer's, or maybe they have a beta amyloid protein accumulation, they have a tendency for Alzheimer's and stuff like that, how we reverse that is we get back to the basics. How were you designed? So if you already had a dysfunction in your relationship with yourself, then it's time for us to actually talk about your problems and who that person is and how can you start to make all these changes. Okay, so I want to provide two resources. Okay, one is ongoing, okay, and one is going to be weekly. So the free resource of my ebook titled The 3 Pillars of Health That You Were Never Told, there's a self-assessment questionnaire at the very end, and that is purpose for you to find out more about yourself and where do you stand in this protocol. So if you are like, oh, I'm not sure if my relationship with myself is good, or maybe you might be on the verge of Alzheimer's, you might be sharing this with your grandmother or grandfather, this is where I would advise you, right, to take the questionnaire and see where you stand. Okay, the other resource is my IG Live Q&A that is resuming this Friday at 1:30. So it's going to be every Friday at 1:30, and because that's going to be a Q&A for all 3 videos that I'm uploading this week, allergies, Alzheimer's, as well as addictions, I'll be answering any questions pertaining to that. So please like, comment, subscribe. My personal assignment is to spread this far and wide so that people can come to know the truth, because the truth will set them free. So God bless you. I will see you at the next video, and hopefully see you on Friday at the IG Live.